Hey, welcome to the Mass Networking Show. It's Matt Ward, and we'll be right back with you in 3 minutes. All right, welcome to the Mass Networking Show. It is Tuesday, September 8th, and we got some great guests here for you today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you join us on our Mass Business Connections Facebook group page. That's facebook.com/group/mass networking. And make sure you stay active with us in the group. If you're here and interacting with us today, we would love for you to comment on the Facebook Live feed. That way we can have you participate in the chat with us and get to know the people who we're interviewing. And by doing that, we first need to have you authorize StreamYard so that your comments will show up, on the screen, because that's how they actually get on there. So make sure you click that first link in the chat. That way your comments will show up like this with your beautiful little photo right there in the image, just like me. Hey, and welcome to the show. We got Mike Urban and Bob Hyldburg. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We're going to dig in a little bit deeper today on
Thanks,
what
Matt.
it is you guys do and the story around networking that we deal with. And I know you guys do some cool stuff. I mean, Mike's just like his last name is Urban, and it looks like he's in like an urban chic apartment. I love that artwork behind you. We'll get into that in a minute. And then Bob has got a great story that he's been telling the world, and he's going to get to tell our Facebook group today what that is all about. So let's just start with meeny, miny, mo. Mike, it is. You're the winner. You get to go first. Mike, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So yeah, my name is Mike Urban. I am a realtor. I've been a realtor for 5 years now, and I've been in the industry for almost 15 years. Before I started selling real estate, I was actually an electrician. My dad owned a business, and I did that for 10 years prior. So I've always been involved in the industry. And I started my business back in I think it was 2015 or 2016. And I started as a solo agent, and I built out a real estate team in Pennsylvania. And I moved to Massachusetts to build out another team here as well. And I worked for Keller Williams in both states.
Where were you in Pennsylvania?
I was in Scranton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was in the office. I was in the office. I produced the office, the whole 9 yards. Everybody asks those questions. I'm like, yeah, I was in it. I was in it. So.
Oh, yeah. I actually had a good friend do a speaking gig in Scranton, Pennsylvania for the chamber, and I actually drove down to see him speak there. And then we did a big art drop thing, kind of big into his art and things like that. And I'm originally from Hershey, Pennsylvania myself. So,
okay.
I drive through Scranton all the time to go back home. And in fact, just recently drove through there last week on my way down south to spend some time.
Traffic hasn't been bad. My dad came up not too long ago. So it's, it's been interesting.
I got to ask you about that artwork behind you. Now, I'm just going to take a random guess, but that car, I'm probably wrong, but is that from Tron?
It is, yeah. It's,
no!
Yeah, you got it, man. You got it. Let me know where to send the money. Give me your mailing address.
It's on my website.
So, oh man, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, when we bought our first home, the one girl that I was friends with, it was a professional artist, and she ended up doing these like modern, some of our favorite movies, and I have them like scattered all throughout our condo. And that's cool. The one that's behind me. So
very cool. So you've been a realtor for quite a while. As we know, if we walk to the end of our driveway, we trip over a financial advisor, a realtor, and a mortgage professional. So what makes you different? In telling me what makes you different, also tell everybody watching who your ideal client is.
What makes me different? I think that I have a high level of service. I mean, maybe most people say that, but just experience, high level of service, very dedicated. I mean, I work all the time, and on the listing side, we use a lot of digital marketing. I'm very good with stuff like that, very good with advertising. That's how I built my business. And then on the buyer side, I have the experience of being an electrician for 10 years. And I've experience-wise been through hundreds of transactions. I was doing maybe 70 transactions a year. So I have a vast amount of experience in if you were to compare it, you may be an agent that's been in the business for 10 or 15 years, the average agent only does 6 deals per year. So they get that experience. I make people feel comfortable, and I really like helping people. So I'm huge on, trying to dig deep and trying to figure out, why somebody wants to move to one area versus another, and then sort of using that as to catapult the houses that we go and see, and try to just take care of them the best that I can. And that's really just how I built 2 businesses. And I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it.
So who's the ideal client for you?
Ideal client, I would say that's a tough call. I would say somebody maybe that's I work with a lot of people in the IT business, actually. Mm-hmm. I just got off the phone with a guy actually from New York, and, definitely people that are, maybe not younger, but first-time buyers, a lot of first-time buyers we work with. And a lot of second or third time buyers too, buying investment. I have a lot of experience selling commercial and investment properties as well. So people, one of the hardest things is, especially in this market, is somebody that has to sell and and needs to buy something right afterwards, because it's very competitive. So it's a good time to sell, but a really hard time to buy at the same time. But first time buyers, and like I work with a lot of mortgage brokers. I work with a lot of insurance people.
My next question is, who's your ideal referral partner?
I mean, we work with a lot of different, obviously we get approached from lenders every single week. We have a new lender in our inbox. But for me, it's more of a personal, like whoever reaches out to me personally. And, I like to know the story behind people, right? Like just like you, I'd like to know, why they got into the industry. You could very quickly tell when you're talking to somebody, if they're passionate about what they do and they like what they're doing. So, mortgage brokers, insurance, homeowners insurance people, inspectors, a lot of those people are the ones that give us a lot of referrals because they know that we take care of our clients.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when it comes to networking, tell us a little bit about what you like about networking.
I think networking is a great way to not only build your business, but build out a brand as well, because networking could take place not only in one state, but multiple states. So there may be multiple people watching this video that, could potentially either need help or real estate needs. Like I just said, I just got off with the guy from the IT guy from New York. He's not moving to Massachusetts, but he has a house to sell there. So I think that, on a broader spectrum, it really helps, people that are passionate about what they do. It really helps shed a spotlight on that, I think. And on the other flip side, it's really good for me to help people because a lot of times I have a lot of experience, not only in real estate, but just in general. And I like being able to connect people with other people that may be looking for a different career change or a different, maybe a different job in the same industry. And I like being able to provide that level of service for my, I guess, for my partners that I work with daily, you know what I mean? Or they're friends of theirs. So that's why networking is a big deal for me. What
do you dislike about it?
My main thing about networking is when I get somebody tells me or gives me a referral of somebody, and it was just a referral based on just because they were the most commented person to use, and then I call them and I interview them, and it's not going to work out. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing that I hate about networking is, sometimes people will refer somebody and they're just doing it just because they know the name or they know the person, but they've never actually had the experience of working with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's not a super solid referral.
Right. I mean, technically on the front end, it looks like a super solid referral, but on the back end, it's really not,
Yeah.
So, and that happens a lot.
I always say that, a referral is somebody ready, willing, and able to buy. So that's really step one. Sure. And step two is if you built the relationship so well that the referrals are coming to you, then they are teed up on a silver platter, ready to go, literally ready to write the check because the referral was so good that the person basically pre-sold it for you. Now that's incredibly rare.
Right. That doesn't happen that doesn't happen that often. But I mean, sometimes it's not a huge deal. I mean, sometimes we get people that are in the beginning of the process, right? And they need the guidance to go from point A to point B. Maybe they're not ready to buy right now. Maybe they're not ready to sell right now. But we try to provide them with the data to make that decision or to help them make the decision for them. You know what I mean? So education is a huge deal in my industry. Yeah. And the more educated a person is on the topic, whether it be selling or buying, it's very easy to use, the data that's provided, whether it's the MLS or just, social indicators of, interest rates and stuff like that, whether to know it's a good time to buy or sell.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned education. So those folks in the Mass Business Connections group, if you want to get on a one-to-one Zoom call with Mike, get some education, whether it be for you or for your potential clients or your potential referral partners you might know, you can reach out to Mike. He'll drop his contact information in the Facebook chat once we're done here, and you can have a conversation with him and stay engaged with him. I think that when people lead with education, that's what we try to do here in the group, right? We're not trying to sell anybody anything. We're just trying to lead with education as much networking. That's why I ask these questions, because I think so often people think that networking is coming into a Facebook group and just dropping their link in there, and we want to give people that opportunity because that's what they want, right? But what they really need is to understand that there's relationship building that has to go on. These things have to take a while. It's not about just coming by and selling what our wares and things like that. Nobody buys that stuff, and nobody wants to be sold that stuff. We've talked on the last 6 episodes. Nobody likes to be pitch slapped. Right. It just doesn't work. So
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the show. We'll bring you back on in just a few moments. I think, when it comes to realtors, and I mentioned this when I was talking to Mike, is that there's so many out there, right? You got to find the right fit for you. And so when you look at Mike's demeanor, you look at any other realtor demeanor, you want to find out what a good fit for you is. refer to learn from, to build a relationship with. Not everybody's a good fit. You don't feel like you need to force it. You shouldn't feel like when you have a conversation that you're going to force. Mike seems like a really cool guy to just talk to, and he's just super down to earth. And not every realtor is like that. And you might say, well, I'm a realtor and I'm like that. Well, maybe you should have a conversation with Mike because you might get along. You could pass referrals back and forth for different places. So I definitely think that's a big component is fit. You know, too often we try and go after what we think is right, but we ignore the gut feeling and the signs of what is a good fit. Yeah, Robert Lee, that's our new term here, pitch slap. We don't like it when it happens on LinkedIn or anywhere else. And so, you know, as a reminder, we appreciate the interaction and thank you very much for being a member of our Facebook group and a community member of our Facebook group. We have hit over 1,100 members in a little over 8 weeks or so. It's fantastic. We love what we're doing here. We love the community we're building, and we cannot wait for this whole virus thing to lift so that we can actually do an in-person networking event. That would be a ton of fun. And we're excited about it, but we don't know when it's going to happen. We're talking behind the scenes about what we can do. We want to see if there's interest in, maybe we'll do a virtual event. Who knows? But we can't wait to get back in person. So that's an exciting thing. And speaking of back in person, you know, a lot of things have not been happening with sports lately, and some of us are going insane. So I'm going to bring on somebody who I know is super educated in sports, and you'll see why here in just a minute. Let me bring on Bob Hyldburg. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Matt. Great to be here. Opening week of football.
Yeah, that's right. It's opening week. And that's so random that you were scheduled, completely planned, to be on this week's show. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a fan of the Patriots, but I'm probably the biggest fan and the most insane historian that probably anyone has ever met. 1994, I wanted to come up with the uniform number of every Patriots player. And through that investigation and networking and meeting people, I've written one book called Total Patriots, and that was the first 50 years of the team. And in a couple months, we'll have the first 60 years of the Patriots, and it's going to have the bio of every single player, 1,268 players that I've researched and found out everything they ever did on the football field for the Patriots. It's probably taken me 20,000 hours to put these things together. I've had a chance to interview hundreds of players. I worked for the NFL for every Patriots home game for 13 years. It's been a blast, but it was just a hobby, and it just exploded into one book, and now another book coming out in a couple of weeks. It's going to the printer in a couple of days. We're just finishing the final edits. So it's been a blast just telling stories about the Patriots and all the different insights that I've learned from all the players.
Are you going to be able to tell a story now about the coronavirus Patriots? I mean, it's so different now, right?
It is. I mean, they had 4 exhibition games, and then even back in the 70s, they had 6 exhibition games. That's how the guys got in shape. I mean, now there's no exhibition games, and you got 2 weeks to really practice without even pads. They're limited the amount of work you can do with helmets and pads. And then we start, and a lot of guys have dropped out. You know, they have young babies at home with their families, and they're like Hightower and Chung and guys that are superstars in the Patriots saying, I don't need the money. I got to protect my family. So it's a whole new ball game, and no fans. I mean, it's a huge experience. People, especially opening day with the flyovers and everything like that, that's a big, big deal. And to miss the first month, it's very, very unique what's going on.
Yeah. Now, generally speaking, most people in the Mass Business Connections are service-based businesses, so they have an ideal client. I guess your ideal client would be a Patriots fan, but I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So who is your ideal client?
Well, I've done a lot of client appreciation nights. So if you have like a dinner that you give to your clients, that type of thing, I'm one of the entertainers. I'll tell stories about the Patriots. We'll have interactive meetings. I've done master of ceremonies and trivia nights, that type of thing. So, I mean, there's a whole group of people that have been around the last 20 years and seen the 6 Super Bowls, but there are also a lot of people out there that remember the 60s, 70s, 80s, even some into the 90s with Bledsoe, and they want to tell their stories. There's Patriots fans that have been around for 30, 40 years. So I can relate to any Patriots fan, a guy that's 85 years old that saw him play in 1964 to someone that saw him 2 years ago in the rain with their dad, play Dallas or something like that. So
that's very cool. So an ideal client would be somebody doing a client dinner. Now, who would be an ideal referral source or partner? Would it be somebody that is going to buy a lot of books, or maybe an event planner or something like that?
Sure, the event planner. So I'll do a lot of master ceremonies, trivia nights, charity events, that type of thing. Elks clubs, and I'm on Rotary clubs all the time just to get the name out there. I mean, the book is a big deal, but that's just opening it up. And, part of what I want to do is share the stories, and I want to hear your stories. If you went to a game, I want to hear your stories too, because it's better when you tell me from your point of view what it was experiencing, that, your Volkswagen gets stuck in the mud in the woods at the Schaefer Stadium in 1974, and it took 6 hours to get home. You never forget those kind of games. As much as they have success, there's a lot of fun stories that people have that I've heard, especially with the.
I was at the Deflategate game.
Oh yeah,
and didn't even know I was at it until after. You know what I mean? I was at the game, and of course there was nothing going on in the stands except an awesome game. And then I was also at the Jacksonville playoff game where they came back from behind and won. That was fantastic too. So. And then, of course, I was in Minneapolis 2 years ago, and that wasn't so great. No, but yeah, that's cool. So, what do you like about networking, Bob?
There's so many different people out there. I mean, I've met so many women actually that are hiring me to speak at their women events and the women conferences because they want to tie into the sports. And back, in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, women did not go to football games. It wasn't safe. There was just too many drunks. But now more and more women are understanding the game, or they want to learn the game. So, I'll kind of break down. I have a little workshop that I do. It's called Do Your Job, and it talks about the process of going through what a player has to learn to get on the field and play for 60 minutes, and how that applies to communication and feedback and practice and focus and commitment, teamwork, all that type of stuff. And more and more of the women event planners are finding out about me and having me, give a little insight of what a first down is and what it means to move the ball down the field into field goal position.
Right.
They like to watch the players, but to understand the game, I could keep it real simple. I did a luncheon one time for a bunch of executives, and there was a guy in the front row who was Italian and could barely speak English, and he says, I don't know anything about football. So I drew a little diagram on the board and talked about offense and defense and matriculating down the field and bombs and blitzes, and did some war analogies, and and he, I get it now, stop the other team from scoring. That's the whole idea. Or putting the ball through the goalposts for 3 points, that type of thing. So I can have a lot of fun.
When you go out and do networking and you're meeting other people, what's the one thing that annoys you most about networking?
Well, a lot of people like to just say, all right, can you come on and do this for nothing? Can you come out and just share some stories? There's some time and effort. I don't mind doing it for short money, or doing something where I can contribute or help the charity event. But there's so many people that seem to want to take advantage of my time and effort. And this is kind of a business too. So I think that for them to understand that if I'm driving 3 hours for $50, maybe that's not worth it to me.
I've been there. All right, cool. Sure. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to Bob, make sure you interact in the comments. And we got Doug chiming in now. He says, "Welcome, Bob," and he
Thanks,
also
Doug.
says, "Pitch slapped." I like that, Matt. Just make sure you don't do it. That's right. Very cool. So we're bringing Mike Urban back into the show. Yeah, I think relationships is everything. You know, it's how we build. You know, when you look at what Bob does over the years, and now he's teaching people about the game, and he's that's how he reaches more and more people. That's how he gets to those rotaries, and it's the relationships by which you can go and interview people in your book. And Mike, you know, talked about that as well. I mean, he himself moved, right? And so those relationships are going to help him get established here in a new state. And now we got to flip him from wherever he is, Eagles or Pittsburgh fan. I'm not sure. I don't know. Harrisburg doesn't have a team, so you don't have to worry about that.
I'm not. No comment. No comment.
Maybe he was gonna say Yankees or something.
No, my friends from PA might be watching this. And
yeah, there you go. There you go.
I don't want to say that much.
All right, so thanks for joining us, and make sure you guys interact in the comments with the members of the Facebook group. And those of you watching the show, make sure you reach out to Mike Urban and Bob Hyldburg to talk to them about what it is they do and how you might be able to help them or connect one-to-one. As always, as I like to say on the end of every single video, don't forget to live happy, smile a lot, and high five everyone around you. Take care, everybody.